Hey guys, this is the part of the content lab that's kind of geeky, kind of nerdy, kind of like, why are we doing this? But listen, this is the huge part of consistency that I think people miss and why they struggle so much following through and staying on track, et cetera, is because they don't have some of these basic, simple, almost boring systems in place. If you are a spreadsheet nerd like myself, you will love this little part. If you hate it, I'm sorry. But again, this is going to be a little bit probably more than what you need. But the idea is I'm going to show you a bunch of different options. And then I want you to pick what feels right for you and forget everything else because you don't want to get so overwhelmed that you don't end up doing anything, but you also want to be intentional with being organized, or you may not follow through on stuff, and you may have the opposite where you get overwhelmed with not knowing what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just go ahead and dig in. We're going to go over a content calendar, a couple of options for that, basic processes, and some ideas on repurposing, and I'm going to give you a couple little bonus things. So having a content calendar is super important because it gives you a big picture idea of what's going on and to make sure that you stay on topic and on theme. And if you have business goals and all of that, it can correlate with that. So have some kind of content calendar in place. I'm going to show you one that I have in Google Drive, and also just using Asana for something super, super basic. So, which you can use Trello as well. I don't use Trello, but that's another option besides Asana. So let's go ahead and go over the Google Drive option first. As you can see, I have all of these tabs right here, and you can delete the ones you don't like, keep the ones you do. This is one that's just an overview of the year. So if you wanted to come in and give some rough ideas about what you may talk about in May and June and July and et cetera, you can go ahead and fill that in here just to give an overview to say, hey, have I thought this through? Does this make sense? Like May was Mental Health Awareness Month, putting in some big key things like that that may align with your goals is a good idea if you want to do that. Also, this is just like a business, like running it like a business. So thinking about it in that sense, but have like a your quarter goals up here, all of that. Again, if this isn't necessary, just right click and you can remove it. I like seeing the full year in front of me, and things change, side note. Also to that, I'm going to skip overview and process. We'll get back to that in a minute. I put out the months here of 2019. So if you prefer having a view like this, I love having like an actual calendar view. You can have that as well here. So I am in May. So as you can see, I have like these content pieces over here, and you can delete the ones that don't make sense and keep the ones that do. So let's say you're a YouTuber and they come out on Tuesdays. You can put that here, and maybe you want to have your I don't know if you do Instagram, I don't know, Facebook video, Facebook Live this day. You get the idea. So you can kind of see what's coming out when and keep yourself accountable to put those pieces in your calendar. And this way, too, you can kind of see what makes sense. So if in YouTube you're talking about, let's stick with mental health, anxiety. Speaking of spreadsheets, anxiety, you're talking about that on YouTube here. You might have a Facebook video about the same thing, So you can use that. And then if you have a promo for that month, I added this here so you can remember what your promos are. This is super customizable. The main idea is that you have something visually here to keep you on track and to keep you organized and to make sure that all of your content is flowing together and you're not getting sidetracked. So I have all these different months here. There's one month I saw a podcast. I had a podcast somewhere. There we go. I was doing a tutorial on this. Forgot to delete it. Okay, so that's that. So you have your full year here. You have your months breakdown here, which you can use. Now I also put an overview here. So if you prefer having a calendar instead of like this, you can have a calendar that's like this. So if you have a podcast or a blog or a YouTube, whatever your main pieces of content are, I put my podcast out right now 3 times a week. So I have 3. Now, if you have it twice a week, you can just delete this row. And let's say you have a blog that comes out on May 30th. And the next one comes out, I don't know, June 3rd. And the topic's going to be this and that. You can kind of plan ahead and see if all of your content like flows together, big picture wise, makes sense. And you can put the status here, like published or scheduled or rough draft. If you have keywords to target, if you have a specific lead mag notes, again, the idea is to keep everything right here so you can see the big picture view of it, and also have a sense of accountability for making sure you stay on track and you're not just relying on, well, whenever I feel like blogging, well, whenever I feel like podcasting, because guess what? You're probably not going to feel like it after a while. So this is a really, really good idea to have. Also, to mention, having things like this in place is super helpful whenever you start building out a team so you can all communicate and make sure you're on the same page. So we went over the yearly, if you want to, if that's helpful for you to have themes. We went over each of these months. If it's helpful to see your month laid out like that, you can just copy paste these or add your own. So another thing here, and you can make it whatever color, of course, and just add it or delete the ones that don't make sense. And then we talked about having this. If you prefer this as a content calendar, you can do something similar to this. Or you can be like me and have everything and just be overboard, over the top, which is what I do. Now, this last little piece right here is, and before we move into Asana, I can show you how you can use Asana instead of doing this, is processes. Now, this is super tedious and may not make sense if you are in the very, 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 very beginning stages, but I think it's a good idea to go ahead and implement it as soon as you can, because you normally have big pieces of content. So you have your blog, your podcast, your YouTube, something that actually takes a lot of planning and effort. And from there, you have, the planning of that, you have the actual creating of it, you have the post-production of it, and then you have the distribution of it. So let's say I'm writing a blog on mental health. I might research topic. I might come up with a name. I might have my 3 points. And let's say I have a call to action. So every one I have maybe a freebie or something. I don't know. So let's say that's in the planning. Now the creating would actually be writing the blog, proofing. I'm not a writer, so I'm just making stuff up. Coming up with images maybe for that blog, pulling out quotes. I don't know. That would be it. So post-production would be, let's say, uploading it to website. Creating social pieces. Like maybe you wanted to make a Pinterest image. Did I spell pieces right? I hope so. That's such a hard word. It's either I-E or I before E, except after C. Yeah, I think that's right. Something like that. Those rhymes even confuse me. Distribution would be share to Facebook or upload to Pinterest. Guest blogger, email guest. See what I'm saying? Like, come up with your process that you do every single time, because sometimes when you're working on one piece, you just do it all sporadically and you forget steps, or you don't work as efficiently because you don't do the same thing in the same way every time. And also too, if you're working on multiple, let's say this is blog one, multiple blogs or multiple pieces, and maybe you're not in the mood to write that day, but you're in the mood to make images, you can go in and say, hey, my overview here, I know I'm talking about this and this and this. Let's go ahead and make the images, and you can, where's images? You can X that you already made those and that they're in the folders. And you can have a process there. Again, this is also helpful when you have a team, because if you share a Google Doc, you can see who's worked on what. And also too, even if you're not ready to have a team right now, knowing what you do every single time and having a process in place is going to really, really help when you bring someone on, because you're not like, oh, I just do it. That doesn't help. You can say like, hey, here's a system. I do this every single blog, every single time, and you can X off when you get done with it. So be forward thinking. You may not think you're ready for a team yet, but you may be ready sooner than you think. And having this kind of organization is super helpful. So that's that. And I normally run everything through Google Drive because I just love it. I have my, I use this right here often. And sometimes I use calendars like this if I really want to sit down for an hour and plan out my content and make sure everything makes sense. But these are the two main pieces that I always use. I always usually use this format for my podcast. And I have a system just like this for my podcast. I have a lot more steps here. It's insane, but I don't want to stress you out. But anyway, come up with your own steps. Okay. Now, you could stay here, or I'm going to show you also using Asana. I've just recently started using Asana. So let's say you sign up for a free account. Just tell us about your team. Let's say operations. I don't know. What is your team called? Operations. Sure. Oh, dang it. I'm going to send this to my husband. He'll love me for it. Brian.parody. So I know this is my husband's email if you ever want to email him. Okay. So essentially everything that I just built out here in Google Drive, you can pretty much build out in Asana. Annual plan, due today 0. No, I want the free plan. Where's the free plan? Premium, business. Well, it's a good thing I'm going through this with you guys so y'all can kind of see the struggle is real. Maybe I just got out of it. Sweet. Okay. So this is what your dashboard's going to look like. So let's say a new project. Let's say you're going to have blank project. Let's do our blog. Okay, create project. Now here's where essentially, you know, this process here, planning, creating, post-production, distribution, you can have the same kind of titles like that. So first section, let's call it planning. Creating. I'm just going to stop there so I won't waste your guys' time. You get the idea. And then you can add another section here. Post. You got it. So this is, we have research topic, name, and 3 points. Okay, and I'll put creating here. I'll put editing. I don't even remember what I said, so let's just do this. Images. And, oops, not section. Post. How do I delete that? Add a task to your project. Here's delete. Okay. Delete permanently. Delete. Okay. Post. Let me delete post. Delete permanently. Okay. And let's go ahead and delete this. Sorry, guys. There we go. Okay. So again, as you can get it that you have these same headers kind of like I have here, and you can put tasks underneath it. So the cool thing about this is, let's say every Monday you want to research a topic. I'm gonna assign it to me, and I'm gonna put a due date that every Monday, or actually you do set to repeat right here. Repeat 7 days after completion. I can do that, or does weekly on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. You can set that if you want it to be daily, weekly, monthly, if you want it to be set to only repeat after you finished it, or you can do it just like a one-time thing, whatever. So let's say that we're going to do weekly on Thursday. Sounds great. Okay. And oh, this is going to go through a whole bunch of tutorials with me. Cool. Naming the podcast assigned to me. Now, again, when you build out your team, you can assign it to other people. Let's have it tomorrow. Okay, so again, you can set the days on here. So what you do is you end up going to my tasks, and you go to calendar, and you can see, now this would be filled out. This would be tons and tons and tons of little things, but you have everything set, and that way you don't have to, like over here in this content calendar, you would have to take this and actually physically move it every single time, which I'm so old school. I just like manually doing stuff. Or you could have it automatically done in something like Asana. So you can have like the list view of things, calendar view. Okay. You'd also like go crazy and get some files in here, and really there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do in Asana. But I just wanted to give you this option too, that if you Google Drive stresses you out, you can use something like this that automatically updates. And this will actually send you email reminders when things are due. Now I'm going to check that I did this. That should pop up again on Thursday. Maybe it'll refresh. It didn't refresh. It should be on due date tomorrow. Oh, that's the one that I set for just once. Okay, yeah, let's check this one. Okay, now it came back here because I set it to reoccur right here. So anyway, that's that option. So again, just get some kind of content calendar in place, whether you use something simple like this, whether you prefer having a manual calendar like this. I'm linking all this below so you can have it access to it. Or you want to do something like Asana, or Trello is something similar, just like Asana. It's like just another brand of it to set up a process. The whole point is that you have something in place that you can see, okay, this is my month. This is when I do things. This is when it's due, to keep yourself accountable. Now, I want to mention that one of the coolest things that you can do is repurposing. So instead of thinking, I get so excited about all the different things, but repurposing is a really great idea. That if you make, let me show you 34. I think it's 34. This is the one that went live today. Yeah. Okay. So this is one podcast, and look at all these different content pieces. Okay. So I think about ways in your process that you don't have to recreate over and over and over again tons of new content, but instead, if you have one podcast or one blog, how can you create micro pieces of content that support it? So I have this one podcast and I listen to it and I write a little blurb here. I come up with these quotes from that podcast, which I can share on Twitter. I use one of those quotes and I make a graphic. See what I'm saying? So this is one audio clip. How long is this audio clip? 29 minutes and 13 seconds. And from that, I have 2 images. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quotes. I have her whole video of me, and it's not fancy. It's just right there, and I can cut that into pieces too if I want. But just thinking about, like, in your process, how can I take these bigger pieces of content and come up with some other ideas? So in my actual process, I'll have edit podcasts and I'll have write show notes, pull out quotes, use one of those quotes and make an image. So think through some of that stuff. Again, if you're just starting out, don't bother with that as much, but just try to think creatively where you can say, like, okay, while I'm working on this, I might as well make a piece that I can repurpose and spread somewhere else. So that is that. All right. And the last thing I wanted to mention, this is just kind of random, but I am uploading a PDF that I made a while back. A lot of people were saying that they struggled with ideas for content for their blog or their podcast, their lives, whatever it is. And I compiled a bunch of random ideas for content ideas specifically for small business owners. And this is really good for B2B businesses specifically, but I wanted to share it with you guys. That gives insight on your, like, maybe pricing. You could talk about branding, things related to your target audience, networking, random stuff like purpose, leadership, do a giveaway. Here's just a whole bunch of ideas for you, and I'll link that below too. If that's helpful. Anyway, just again, set up some kind of content calendar. The main point is that you get organized and that you make this make sense for with whatever you are creating. All right, guys, I will see you soon.